filed while on the clock at a Houston Texans game. We'll discuss the details surrounding this lawsuit and more of today's top headlines. I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman.
And I'm Ernie Manouse. We'll also be joined by interim Harris County Attorney Jonathan Fombonne, who will share his thoughts on the threats Governor Abbott has made about taking over elections in Harris County.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts, comments, and questions on any of today's topics by giving us a call or texting us at 713-440-8870.
You can also email us at talk@hellohouston.org or watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump says anything less than U.S. control of Greenland would be, quote, unacceptable. NPR's Frank Ordonez reports Trump's top aides meet today with foreign ministers of Denmark and Greenland.
President Trump claims the U.S. needs the Arctic territory for national security purposes. In a social media post, Trump argues it could also strengthen the NATO alliance. He wrote, quote, NATO becomes far more formidable and effective with Greenland in the hands of the United States. Danish officials requested the meeting with the administration. Greenland's prime minister says Greenland stands with Denmark and warns that the territory will face a geopolitical crisis if it has to choose between the U.S. and Denmark. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
In a standoff over federal immigration enforcement in Minnesota, at least half a dozen veteran assistant U.S. attorneys have resigned. Matt Sepik of Minnesota Public Radio reports Justice Department officials had pressured the lawyers to investigate the widow of a woman killed last week by an ICE agent.
Those who quit include Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office Criminal Division Chief Melinda Williams and Joe Thompson, the lead fraud prosecutor. According to a person familiar with the situation not authorized to speak publicly, the prosecutors quit over pressure to investigate Becca Good for ties to activist groups, which is protected First Amendment activity. She's the widow of Renee Macklin Good, who was killed by ICE agent Jonathan Ross last week in Minneapolis. The assistant U.S. attorneys also object to the Justice Department's reluctance to investigate Ross. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche says there's, quote, currently no basis for a criminal civil rights investigation. For NPR News, I'm Matt Sepik in Minneapolis.
The Oglala Sioux tribe in South Dakota is demanding information about tribal members still in ICE custody since they were detained last week in Minneapolis. The tribe's president, Frank Starr, comes out, said in a statement 4 men were picked up at a homeless encampment. He says 1 has been released, 3 remain illegally detained. He says federal officials told the tribe that information about the detained men would be released only if the tribe entered into an agreement with ICE, which the tribe says is not going to happen. 2025 was a lackluster year for home sales, but sales activity picked up in December. Here's NPR's Scott Horsley.
Sales of existing homes rose more than 5% in December compared to the previous month. Mortgage rates have fallen from nearly 7% a year ago to just over 6% today. A new report from the Commerce Department says retail sales picked up in November. Consumer spending at restaurants, stores, and gas stations rose by 0.6% during the month. Thanks to President Trump's tariffs, the U.S. is buying less from China, but China's finding plenty of other buyers around the world. Exports from the world's second largest economy rose 5.5% last year, and China's trade surplus grew to a record $1.2 trillion.
It's NPR.
Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Police have a man in custody accused of robbing the credit union inside the UH Student Center. News 88.7's Tom Perumian has an update.
24-year-old Jerome Rubin is facing previous charges of kidnapping and sexual assault of a check-cashing employee in Baytown. Rubin is also facing charges for aggravated robbery and sexual assault in the city of South Houston as well. He's currently being held on $6 million bail in the Harris County Jail.
The 2026 World Cup is 5 months away, and FIFA says this is expected to be its biggest tournament ever. News 88.7's Michael Adkison reports Houston alone could see a $1.5 billion economic impact.
Imagine the work that goes into hosting the Super Bowl, like Houston did in 2017. Now multiply that times 7. That's the level of work it takes to host Houston's 7 matches in the World Cup, according to Houston Host Committee President Chris Canetti.
We have to set the table and make sure the venue is ready for the party that's about to come, and then FIFA brings the party.
That includes things like preparing NRG Stadium, working on safety and security, and ensuring people have access to transportation to the matches. In order to do that, the host committee has several projects in the works, including investing in a walkable path from East Downtown to NRG Stadium. I'm Michael Atkinson, News 88.7.
Hear more about what Houston's World Cup host committee is planning this afternoon on News 88.7 In Depth. Memorial City Mall has reopened after an ammonia leak at the ice rink forced an evacuation yesterday. District Fire Chief Robert Osmus says a crew was initially dispatched to the mall Tuesday afternoon for a possible gas leak when they discovered it was ammonia.
Once we arrived on scene, we determined that there was a significant leak involved, so we started working with mall security, evacuating the immediate area, and then moved on to evacuate the rest of the mall, utilizing the security and HPD.
There were no injuries reported from last night's incident, but the ice skating rink remains temporarily closed. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Auto Insurance protects the vehicles that work to keep small businesses moving forward, including protection while running errands and other tasks. At progressivecommercial.com.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
You know, we mentioned Frank. He's not here today, but we have a Friends of Frank coming. So it's like Frank is here with us. You'll get to hear from Frank during the show today.
Yes, and it's extremely, extremely topical because it is about mental health and the Texans. And so as we continue to watch the Houston Texans, they're going to go for the big...
I hear they're doing well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got a note. They said Texans doing well. So good for you, Texans. We want to keep that going. We want to keep it on a winning streak as we move through the next few weeks. It's funny. It's getting close.
Yeah, right around the corner.
We're also going to talk a lot of politics on today's show. We're going to be talking about how our elections are run here in this area and how they should be run. So we'll find out more about that. And we'll also talk to someone who is running for Harris County Judge. And then someone who should be running the other way from storms, but actually he runs into them. Hank Schyma is going to be here. He's a storm chaser and a beautiful photographer who takes pictures of these weather occurrences.
Mm-hmm.
All of that's coming up on the show. So we got a lot going on today. I heard a little rumor you may be getting out of town this weekend.
Yeah, I'm gonna head out for the long weekend.
Oh, I keep forgetting it's a long weekend.
Yeah, Martin Luther King Day is on January 19th.
And just yesterday we were talking about the Martin Luther King Parade, which is a unity parade. For those of you who haven't been keeping up on that story, both parades are coming together to give you one. And Matt Hatter was here yesterday and said, when I went back and watched it, he was like, one very long parade. And I had forgotten. Now you got double the entrance. It's going to be a big deal, a great holiday to celebrate in our community, and unity is there with
it.
So
and that parade starts at 10 a.m.
on Monday. Yeah. Talking about things going on out there, weather.
Yeah, today you can expect partly sunny skies with highs near the low 60s and lows tonight around the mid 40s. So it's going to be kind of mild days. So yeah.
Yeah, last night I had a comforter on the bed and another comforter on the bed and the cats. So I was staying nice and toasty like I like it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have a little, I was going to say a little cat, but I have a son who's 5 who likes to crawl into my bed at
It's
night.
like having a little cat. Is he like a little
warm.
furnace? Is
yes.
he real hot?
And he gets in next to me and I'm like, ooh, move over.
Yeah. But you know what? Eventually, he's going to grow up. He's going to leave that bed of yours. And it's like mommies having to say goodbye to their little sons who become their own little man. Oh, no, you don't mind that at all?
No.
You're ready for it. Well, it's going to be, it's nice. I hope you have a good little getaway for the weekend. And I will be here in town. We had mentioned that my mom was in the hospital for a short stay. It was nothing major. It was just how to get the right medication into her. And we couldn't do it at home, so she had to be at the hospital. But for those of you who have asked and are concerned, she's back home and healthy and doing great.
Great.
There you go. But on to the headlines of the day. Take it away.
Yes, the following story involves allegations of sexual assault against a child. So the parents of an 8-year-old boy have filed a lawsuit against the man accused of sexually assaulting their child during a Houston Texans game, along with 2 companies connected to the operations at NRG Stadium. The suit filed Tuesday in Harris County names 21-year-old Uche Marquez Nixon, Aramark Sports and Entertainment Services of Texas, and ASM Global Parent Inc., which manages NRG Park. The family is seeking monetary damages and court costs. According to court documents, a Good Samaritan, also in the stadium restroom at that time, reported the incident to the boy's parents, and the child then identified Nixon as the alleged assailant. Nixon allegedly fled the scene. Aramark confirms Nixon is no longer employed with the company and says it is aware of the very disturbing situation and is fully cooperating with authorities. What are your thoughts on this lawsuit? Is this Aramark's fault, or are they not responsible for an employee's actions? How do you keep your kids safe at public events? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. You can call or text 713-440-8870.
It's, first of all, a horrible story. And I'm sorry that we have to lead off our show today with it. No child should ever feel endangered. And this kind of criminal activity, I was going to say behavior, but it's criminal activity, has to be prosecuted. It's terrible. My thoughts on this story are, though, we need to make sure that we put fault where fault lies. Mm-hmm. And I don't know Aramark's hiring practices. I don't know how they vet employees. I don't know if there is no sign of negligence on their behalf. I don't know if everyone can police everybody that works for them. So if they did all due process, whatever the actual
screening
term,
and background checks,
then I don't know that Aramark is at fault when an employee goes rogue. It's the employee's fault that they did that.
Yeah.
If there is a hole in hiring practice, if there isn't the correct background searches, if there was a history of this and Aramark didn't do the proper vetting, it's a different. I think that's what the court case finds out then.
Yeah, and I think there are still questions around this case specifically, exactly like what you're saying, looking at what were the protocols for this person to be employed. Was there, what type of screening is done, what type of background checks. However, I do think that the employer should be, of this man should be held responsible. If there is something happening and your employee is representing you and they do something at this level of criminality, absolutely they should be held accountable. And I have to say, this is every parent's worst nightmare because so often as time, I have a 9-year-old daughter and we're making split-second decisions. My daughter often asks me, Evelyn will say, Mommy, can I go to the bathroom by myself at a restaurant? Or, if you're at a sports game and you sit there and you think, I want my child to be independent, but I also know the world we live in, unfortunately, and the dangers that come when a child can be left alone. And so, one, my heart goes out to the family of this. But the other part of the story that I found very interesting was that a Good Samaritan stepped in. Yeah. And they went to the parents and they told the parents. And to me, that is an important part of this situation. When you see something, say something. And we say that from this side of it. Mm-hmm. But when you're in that moment, it's hard to say, I'm going to follow this child and do that. So kudos to the Good Samaritan. That is an example that we should all continue to follow and live by. But I also want to take it one step further. Mm-hmm. And I hope that this young man that did this horrendous act isn't just prosecuted and thrown in jail, but is given the right, proper therapies and, providing real mental health support.
Right.
Because if we truly want to keep our children safe, we have to look at pedophiles and get to the root cause and start talking about this more openly and not have stigma around it.
Mm-hmm. It's hard, especially when it comes to the crime of pedophilia, where it seems to be something that is a pattern of behavior more so than a one-off occurrence. Not that that corrects it in any way, shape, or form, a one-off, but the fact being that if I remember correctly, the whole insidious nature of these crimes is that therapy doesn't help. If the hard wiring is such, and please, if you're listening and you know more on this or more of the psychology of it, please call in and share with us at 713-440-8870. But I remember that was why we became so fervent against it, and the penalties became so harsh because the rehabilitation rate was so extremely low if somebody practices that kind of behavior, and why they have to then file as sex offenders and why it has to be known to their community.
We should have all of those processes in place 100%.
But I hear what you're saying, but we
also
should still give the proper
talk about it.
Care. Yeah.
But again, 713-440-8870, we're discussing a lawsuit that's been brought forward by the parents of a young child who was sexually assaulted during a Houston Texans game by an employee of Aramark Sports and Entertainment Services.
I guess that's still allegedly.
Allegedly.
To be proper and all that. A couple comments been coming in from our YouTubers. One such comment: such a horrible story. I only see Aramark liable if they didn't do the proper screening when they hired that person. Another commenter says the company is responsible for better vetting. However, every individual is responsible for their own evils. And I think I agree with both of those. And then a third comment, prayers for the family. Absolutely. But more so than prayers, we as a community have to do what that Good Samaritan did too. Like you said, Celeste, we need to be aware, keep our eyes open, look at the community around us, the environments in which we're in. And if something doesn't look right, it's okay to point it out.
Right. And I read the documents within this case, and basically that Good Samaritan said that they saw something that didn't, an interaction to them that did not look right.
Mm-hmm.
So your gut, listen to your gut. If there's an interaction that doesn't look right, say something.
Right, right. Just because you say something doesn't, and if you interpreted the situation wrong, it will be corrected. But if you interpreted it correctly, is it worth not saying something to preserve your concern that maybe you saw something that didn't happen? More times than not, we have these instincts, and if we feel something isn't right, it probably isn't. Yeah. At the same time that this story is going on the national level, you've got the Timothy Busfield story, the actor from 30-something and all that. And he's being accused of having molested a set of twins on the set of a show he was directing. He says, in his defense, he did not do it, that it will be proven that this family had an axe to grind, and so they made these allegations. But again, okay, then if they can prove that, then okay. It's better in a situation like this. Oftentimes, children that report these things do not lie. They don't know to lie about something like this. So, but always, you deserve your day in court, and if they can prove that there was malice in the accusations, do it. It doesn't look good that Timothy Busfield ran away when the allegations came after him, but on the other side, those kind of allegations, it's
serious.
Scary.
Yeah, and it's very scary.
Yeah.
Yes, but again, 713-440-8870. I apologize, Ernie, what were you were going to...
I was just going to say, how do you and I think we've mentioned this before, and I think it can be of help of people listening. How do you talk to your children about this very thing? Or do you know the things to say?
I'm pretty open with my children. Number one, we call our private parts the actual names of it, so there's no type of, you can't walk around it. We know our anatomy well, and I'm pretty open with my kids and say, nobody is supposed to touch you there. Nobody. And unless mommy or daddy are there, or a doctor, we talk about it pretty openly in my family.
That's
because good. As a parent or anybody that's around children, truly, they're so innocent.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are so innocent, and it breaks your heart. So,
and it lasts for such a short period of time, too, when all of a sudden we become adults, and that takes up so much more of our lives. I wish we had more time as
kids want to become Kids want to become adults so quickly as well. So yeah.
All right. Well, your thoughts. We're curious. Who's at fault here? Do you think Aramark should be held responsible or liable for any of this? Give us a call, 713-440-8870. I do want to make a quick note. I did see a comment coming up from our YouTubers, and if you're not watching us on YouTube, you're missing out. They want to know, is Frank coming back? Yes, Frank is coming back. He just took a little time off. We're all entitled to that.
Yes, that's right. But coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with interim Harris County Attorney Jonathan Fombonne about the threats Governor Greg Abbott made about taking over elections in Harris County and his vision as the interim of Harris County. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Lenny Ambrose from St. Arnold Brewing Company, proud supporters of Houston Public Media. Right now, with your $60 donation, you can choose tickets to News and Brews. This member-exclusive event takes place February 17th. Enjoy a pint, connect with fellow NPR fans, and meet the Houston Public Media newsroom in person. Select News and Brews tickets when you donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Can't get enough PBS programming? PBS Passport is an added member benefit that offers exclusive streaming access to many of your favorite programs on the PBS app. Whether you're an NPR listener, a PBS watcher, or both, your ongoing donations of at least $5 per month qualify for PBS Passport. Make your gift now to start watching at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Support comes from the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, presenting Art and Life in Imperial Rome, Trajan and his Times, exploring the impact Emperor Trajan had on art and culture during his reign. Now on view, tickets at mfah.org.
Support comes from Theater Under the Stars and the Broadway musical $1 Million Quartet, featuring the music of Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Carl Perkins. February 17th through March 1st at the Hobby Center. Tickets at tuts.org.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, Nature presents Tusker, Brotherhood of Elephants. Follow the lives of elephant bulls in Mount Kilimanjaro and get a rare glimpse into the complexity of these giants. Tonight at 7 on TV8. Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Clarion at Brazosport College, presenting the Westerly's Brass Quartet, performing in concert on Friday, January 16th. More information at brazosport.edu/Clarion.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and Celeste Díaz Schurman.
Earlier this week, Texas Governor Greg Abbott threatened to take over elections in Harris County, citing concerns about voter registration linked to P.O. boxes. But county officials are pushing back, saying that the state has no authority to take over local elections, while characterizing Governor Abbott's threats as politically motivated. Joining us now is interim Harris County Attorney Jonathan Fombonne, here to explain the county's response and what comes next. So first, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
And second, if you would like to join the conversation, have questions, concerns, you want to share them with us, give us a call or text at 713-440-8870.
Jonathan, before we jump into that conversation around Governor Greg Abbott, you, before serving as Christian Menefee's direct advisor as the first assistant county attorney, you were a partner at Kirkland & Ellis. Can you tell us about your path moving from the private sector into public service and kind of what motivated you to join the Harris County Attorney's Office?
Yeah, so I was a partner at Kirkland & Ellis doing commercial litigation largely, and when I was there, I met a young attorney named Christian Menefee who decided to run for county attorney. And I'm not from here originally. I didn't know what the county attorney's office was. And but he said, he was going to run for this office. And as I learned more about it, and then he invited me to come and help run the office, I thought it would be a fantastic opportunity to, really impact the people of the county, sort of change what the county attorney's office could do, and really bring some of the skills and experiences I'd gotten in private practice to the public sector. And 5 years later, here we are.
Yeah, and you recently told the Harris County county commissioners, you plan to, quote, help them understand the legal landscape, finding solutions to legal problems, raising issues when we need to, and staying out of the way when we don't. You also oversaw the county's litigation efforts. So what does the current legal landscape look like right now in Harris County? Bring us up to the fold to where we're at now.
Right. So, we could talk about this for hours because Harris County is huge. Part of the reason we're here today to talk about elections is because Harris County is huge. 5 million people, about 2.5 million registered voters. And what that means is the range of issues we deal with in our office every day run the gamut from real property issues to tax to contracts to litigation. So it's really everything. The sort of big issues we're facing today involve, as you know, voting rights and voting procedures. The state and the county have not seen eye to eye on this for a few years now. I think there's some legal but really political reasons behind that. And as we enter these primaries and then these midterms, that's something we're looking at closely.
So let's talk about what the governor said and why you're here today and what our concerns should be. And so Governor Abbott did say he wanted to strip the county of operating elections and place the election administration under state control. Let's just start there. Does he have the authority to do that?
So the governor does not have the authority to do that. What he's referring to, most likely, and I have not talked to him about this, is a bill that was passed by the legislature in 2023, I
Bill
believe.
1933?
That's right,
Yes.
Senate Bill 1933. It was sponsored by Senator Paul Betancourt, and it applies only to Harris County. And it basically says that if there's a pattern of misconduct by any of the officials that run elections, so here we're talking about the county clerk who runs elections or the county tax assessor collector who runs voter registration, the state can receive complaints, investigate them, and if certain thresholds are met, they can come in and take over the administration of elections of the county. Now, that hasn't happened here at all. What the reason, and I believe this tweet from the governor came out last week, is that 2 months ago, I think, Senator Betancourt himself sent a letter to the tax assessor collectors saying he had found a bunch of people on the voter rolls who were registered at P.O. boxes and that this violated Senate Bill 1111. That's another bill that he sponsored, I think, in 2021, which says that you cannot claim residence at a commercial P.O. box. And so that was treated by the Secretary of State as a complaint under that Senate Bill 1933. An investigation was opened. My understanding is that the Secretary of State's office does not think that there was any kind of misconduct by the tax assessor collector. And in fact, the tax assessor collector did exactly what the law requires. When someone registers to vote, it is not the tax assessor collector's job, the voter registrar's job, to say, we're going to go through this and say, I don't think that person actually lives here. They have to accept the registration. But if somebody raises the issue, they're supposed to send a notice to that voter and say, hey, there may be a problem with your registration. Do you actually live here? And if that voter responds, no, I don't, then they can be taken off the voter rolls. Anyway, that's exactly what happened here. The tax assessor collector sent those notices out, and that's all that the law requires. And so there's just no basis for any takeover of elections.
A couple little points here just to clarify. Approximately how many registered voters are there in Harris County?
I think it's about 2.5 million.
2.5 million. Yeah. We're talking about, I think, around 100, correct?
That's what was raised by the complaint.
And of that, we don't see, and you probably addressed this already, but just to clarify it, we didn't necessarily see fraud in these 100. It was just they had registered at their P.O. boxes, presumably, which is probably where they got all of their mail. And so they just had put that information down, maybe an error, but it didn't seem to be, from the investigation, from looking into it, any kind of organized fraud.
Right. No, certainly not. And again, the process exists to work in this way. It says if someone brings an issue to the voter registrar that says this person doesn't really live here, and by the way, it's not limited to P.O. boxes. There's already a process in state law that says, if you believe your neighbor is claiming residence at a different house, but he lives next door to you, you have the ability to submit essentially a complaint to the voter registrar. And if they believe that there's merit to the complaint, they send a notice to that voter and for them to confirm. But there are all these checks along the way to make sure that we don't get to the point where a voter who doesn't reside in the right place votes in that place. So like you said, when we talk about fraud, I think what we think of is a voter who's either not allowed to vote, casting a vote, or who's allowed to vote but not allowed to vote in a certain place, casting a vote. No evidence of that happened here.
Okay, one other thing. Celeste was ready to go, but I'm going to jump just right in here.
Sure.
So then the question becomes, why are you here? Why is this now an issue? It sounds like from what you're saying, concern was brought up, concern was looked at, concern was corrected. How do we then get to the level that the governor is saying, there's corruption here and we need to take it over, and then you step in to say what?
I think this is where politics comes in, unfortunately. My job as the county's legal advisor is not necessarily to be political, but sometimes I have to tell my clients, hey, you did it right. The reason that you're hearing these things from the governor now is it's not because you did something wrong. It's because of politics. And I think what we know is that the governor has said that he's going to spend millions of dollars in Harris County to try and unseat Democrats. And there are many ways you can do that.
Turn it deep red. That's what he said.
Turn it deep red. That's right. There are many ways you can do that, but one of the ways you can do that is by sowing distrust in our election system. So nothing happened last week to cause him to tweet that. Like I said, Senator Betancourt has submitted his complaint very publicly, by the way. He had tweeted that really, I think, a couple of months ago. But I think as we get closer to, well, first of all, the primary, but also the general in the fall, you're going to see more and more things like this.
So it's interesting. So, Jonathan, partisanship aside, what are your top priorities as the new Harris County interim attorney, especially during this transition period, and especially given the fact that you're kind of coming into this space where, Christian Menefee is running for the 18th district. We've had a lot of news around the redistricting. Here you are now. Talk to us about that.
What's great about coming into this job is that I know what the job is, and I've done a lot of it the last 5 years. My goal really is to keep the ship steady. My appointment ends in November. So I'm not here to try and necessarily rock the boat, but to continue a lot of the efforts that we created, and also to build on those. So, and that can be anything from our environmental group that does fantastic work, suing concrete batch plants that operate without valid permits. It includes our consumer protection group that's doing phenomenal work, going after people who really defraud normal people every day through things like deed fraud and all sorts of other deceptive trade practices.
Sorry, I want to pause you on the deed fraud. I know that there was a major case that we spoke to Menefee about regarding one of the biggest Harris County deed fraud cases. Can you tell us where we're at in that?
People are getting their deeds
stolen
without being aware of it
by a specific.
It was a person. It was two people.
A couple.
A woman named Abbott Martinez and her husband.
Yes.
I believe that she's now under indictment or under investigation. So there's a criminal aspect to this. We have nothing to do with that.
Okay.
But we filed a number of lawsuits related to those. It's very hard when you do that sometimes to recover the property, right? Because what happens
That's
is...
what I was going to ask. What happened to those
Well,
folks?
what happens, right, is sometimes the deed fraud happens and then the property gets sold and then gets sold again. And the law doesn't really allow you to go back and take property from someone who bought the property in earnest. But what we've been able to get is some civil penalties assessed against Ms. Martinez and an injunction really that she cannot do this kind of activity again without suffering some serious consequences. Now, it sounds like there may be other criminal consequences, which will probably be more serious for her. But on the civil side, what we can do is get these injunctions, get these civil penalties, and hopefully sometimes get restitution, and that's just paying money back to the people who were defrauded.
Let me just ask this then for folks listening, and I know we went over this with Menefee when he was here, but just tell people what they can do so they don't find themselves victims of this type of a crime, because it's really insidious.
No, that's right. And this one is particularly hard to protect against because, a lot of people inherit property, right? They don't know the deed history, right? The deeds are recorded with a county clerk. It's very technical things that people don't really realize are an important part to proving that you own real estate. But being mindful of that, checking the clerk records if you have any kind of doubt. And also you can
regularly check of your property status.
Right. Yeah. And you can go to scamfreehc.com. That is a website we set up that has information related to not just this type of consumer fraud, but consumer fraud generally, including some tips on how to protect yourself and a place to also report that kind of fraud. So to see if our office or maybe another office can look into it and maybe take action if possible.
Yeah. I want to take you back, though, if we can, to the election situation. And we hear the governor say what the governor says. We know that we're in a time of people have a lack of trust in the systems that are out there. How can you assure voters now that moving forward into these, there's a special election end of the month, there's a primary election, there's a full
lot of
election, there's a
elections.
lot of elections.
Yes,
We
we're
love
heading
to
into a
vote
big
here in this
election
area.
year.
That it's safe and secure and that they are going to have their voices heard. What are you folks doing in your office to ensure that along this path?
Well, first of all, what I would say is that it's important not to buy into the narrative that our elections are not safe and secure. And in fact, the Secretary of State's office, ever since I've been in government, has made public statements, and some of the people who've made those statements, unfortunately, were punished for it, that our elections were safe and secure. And even though we've had some issues, that's to be expected for a county this size. I mean, again, 5 million people,
2 million plus voters.
2 million plus voters, the geographic size of the county. I don't think people appreciate that when you have polling sites that are in a place, I think I might be wrong about this, but the size of Rhode Island, it's a very hard thing to manage. Some things will happen at the margins, but that's all it is. It's at the margins. And you mentioned earlier, Ernie, that we were talking about 100 P.O. box addresses, and that's just registrations, not necessarily people who voted. So the idea that there's this sort of rampant fraud out there, mismanagement of elections, is just not true. I see our role as guiding the tax assessor collector and the county clerk to make sure that they're following the law, to make sure that if something happens later, they can go back and say, no, we followed the election code to a T. If something happened, it may be because of some other actor. Elections is run obviously by these offices, but by a lot of people who are really part-time workers, and they're trained as well as we possibly can train them, but mistakes may happen. And if those mistakes happen, it's also important to educate the public that they're not having an impact on the results of elections. I think that's the most important thing here, is that when people go to the polls, they know that, yes, maybe 1 or 2 voters, may have registered at the wrong place, or maybe didn't know the exact specifications on how you're supposed to register to vote. But that's a minute amount of people. I've voted almost every election in Harris County. It's generally very well run. I don't have to wait very long, and I've never doubted that the result of an election, even if it's the candidate that I didn't want to win, wasn't the result.
Yeah. There's also a lot of talk about poll watching and who's coming in and who's going to watch, and I don't know where that sits currently. And I know elections isn't your bread and butter of this, but watching over these kind of lawsuits and concerns about it, what should we as voters be aware of and look for when we go to polls to know that it's being run honestly, fairly, that there isn't interference, and where do we report if we see these issues?
Yeah. So first of all, poll watchers have been allowed under this election code and most states' election codes for years. It's not a new thing. And typically poll watchers are appointed by the respective parties, the Democrats and the Republicans. That's just part of the process. They can watch the votes, and they can also watch the counting of the votes, and that happens every election. But that's something that people should take to heart, to know that there are regular civilians who have a vested interest in the outcome, paying attention to what happens. So that's something that's out there. Sometimes we talk about poll watchers coming from the federal government. I'm not aware of that happening in any of the upcoming elections. When that happens, we work with them closely to make sure they're not interfering with anything, but they're also able to observe, and they're allowed to come and do that. If you're a voter, what I would always say is, if you go to the polls, are you seeing anything that makes it look like somebody is trying to manipulate your vote? And do you feel like there aren't enough checks along the way to make sure that if somebody wanted to manipulate the vote, that they would be able to? And I think once you think about it that way, you would see it's very hard to really manipulate even your vote, let alone like thousands of votes, enough to sway an election, right? Mm-hmm. When you come in, you got to show your ID. You've got to affirm and sign that you still live at a certain place, right? It's an electronic system that keeps up with your residence. It's very hard to come in and vote as someone else or vote in a different place. The checks are already in the system. They're built in the election code. I know I don't run elections, but I know the election code very well. It is full. It is full of checks along the way to make sure that nothing happens. Sometimes maybe too many.
Yeah.
Right. You said your appointment is over in November. Houston City Council member Abby Kamen officially entered the race in December. Democrat Judge Audrey Lawton Evans and Republican Jacqueline Lucy Smith also joined the contest. Are you going to run or just serve out your appointment?
Just serve. It's too late for me to sign up to run, so just serve out my appointment. I'm not someone who wanted to run for office. I may do that in the future. I have little kids, and so I have a lot of respect for people who do that, but that's not something I'm doing right now.
So you just took this to get your hair a little grayer and then move on back into the private
That's right.
sector.
That's right. Luckily, I knew what I was walking
into. Well, thank you so much for coming in. At this point, though, you're saying, Judge Abbott, bluster, nothing has happened yet, but you're keeping an eye on it.
That's right.
Governor Abbott.
Governor Abbott.
Governor
Yes,
Abbott,
sorry.
yes.
What did I call him?
Judge.
He used to be a judge.
Yeah, at one point.
Yes. Interim Harris County Attorney Jonathan Fombonne, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Coming up, another episode of Friends of Frank. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues. We'll be back after the break.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Support comes from Rothko Chapel, presenting the 31st MLK birthday observance. We Got Us, Health and Care Beyond Capitalism, on January 15th at 6:30 p.m. More information at rothkochapel.org. Support comes from Smart Financial Center in Sugar Land, presenting Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass, celebrating the 60th anniversary of whipped cream and other delights. Saturday, January 17th. Tickets at smartfinancialcenter.net. Support comes from Visit Galveston, presenting Galveston Museum Weekend, an annual event highlighting a variety of museums and cultural institutions across the island, exploring local history and heritage. January 23rd through 25th. More at visitgalveston.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and Celeste Díaz Schurman.
Today we'll be revisiting a conversation Frank Billingsley had with Karen Winston, a licensed master social worker and former psychotherapist to the Houston Texans, for his series of Friends of Frank. Let's take a listen.
All right, another edition of Friend of Frank, and I'm with Karen Winston, a real friend of Frank, for a long time. And this time, I want to talk to Karen about one of the roles she had for 13 years, which was the team counselor for the Texans. Now, is that like a life coach, Karen? What is a team
life
counselor?
Coaches usually aren't licensed, so I would say no.
So but you have a psychologist degree.
I have a degree in social work from the University of Houston.
Okay.
Masters of social work.
And you also work with Baylor College of Medicine.
I'm a professor at Baylor College of Medicine.
So you walk the walk.
I walk the walk.
You got the receipts.
You got the receipts and have the license, which is important to have a license because it really informs you how to be.
So
ethically.
I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this, but how did you become a team counselor for the Texans?
So a colleague of mine was working with the Astros, and the Texans called the Astros and said, hey, is your guy available for us also? And he said, no, I can't take on two teams, but I know the exact right person. And the reason he knew that is because he knew he had referred professional athletes to me, and he knew I was very comfortable with working with professional athletes. So that's how it happened.
And so why did the Texans feel that they needed a team counselor?
Well, the NFL mandated initially that every single team had a licensed therapist to teach the rookies as they came in, to help them navigate this huge new role they had in the NFL. And so I was chosen to do that. So I was actually paid by the NFL for my first, 4 years. And then the Texans decided to hire me because the NFL was really saying every team needs a therapist. And there was a lot of pushback from teams for many years, like, we don't need this. And then once I was there, and I was already there because I was teaching all the rookies every year, it worked beautifully. I mean, it was a very natural progression, and I had very little pushback at the beginning once they hired me, and it turned into a great relationship.
So it would be obvious that kids, and I say kids because they're 20, 21 coming into this.
The rookies are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
into this environment. First of all, there's going to be the stress and the pressure of being a professional athlete. That's got to be enormous. But what else? I mean, they come into a lot of money and all that goes with that, maybe a lot of family pressure. What kind of challenges do these kids face?
Yeah. First of all, one size doesn't fit all. Yes, it's a lot of money from where their peers are. But from the practice squad to the number one draft pick, there's a huge variance in the kind of money they make. I think there's so many stressors, but one that's going on right now, as we're here in the summer and fall talking about football, when the roster goes from 90 that are in training camp to 53, all the guys are going to get cut that don't make the 53 roster. And then what happens to them? They're trying so hard. And then on the day they go to the 53-man roster and all those guys are cut from every team, it's the same thing. They're scrambling to try to get into the NFL or stay. Well, then guess what? So, Frank, you made the 53-man roster. This is a Tuesday. You are high-fiving. You're going out to dinner with your friends and family. You went, oh, my God, I made it to the NFL, or I get to keep my job. You come in the next day. They go, Frank, you're out. You went, wait, you just picked me yesterday. Go, sorry, we changed our mind. We got someone else today. Someone got released on another team. We want them. So then you don't have a job. So then what happens? Cincinnati calls you. The Bengals. You go, we want you up here, Frank. You go up there. You're there 2 weeks. Your family's still here. You're going, oh, maybe I'll move there. They release you. They go, Frank, sorry, we're bringing someone else in. You come back to Houston. Texans call you. They say, Frank, we really like you. We're putting you on the practice squad. You're not going to suit up for games, but you're going to practice with us. You're kind of the men in waiting, right? Oh, my God, I got to salary him in the practice squad. Well, the practice squad works like this. Any team can steal you, but your team gets the choice of moving you to the big roster or letting you go. You could move in one season 8 times easily. Your family, if you're married or with kids or own a house, you don't know where you're going to be in those first 4 years. It can happen all the time. It can happen to guys under contract, too. But when you have a guaranteed contract like in Houston, the number 1 and number 2 draft picks, otherwise, you don't know. It is the most unstable business and unpredictable and difficult, and the stress is unimaginable. I have such high regard for these men, what they go through. Not to mention what you said, family wanting money. Oh, now you're rich. Are girls going after you for your money, for who you are? 1,000%. Yeah. You don't know who's real, who's not, who really cares about you, who doesn't.
I had no idea. And you're talking about the first 4 years. And this isn't just the first year.
Because it's not guaranteed. Your contract is not guaranteed. You get guaranteed money, but your contract is not guaranteed.
All right, so you go into a classroom with these young men who are facing all of this.
Uh-huh.
And what do you write on the blackboard? What in the world do you tell them?
Well, first of all, no blackboard. Everything we talk about is confidential. Number one rule. They can say what's going on in the classroom with themselves, but no one else. So we have to have a safe place, most important. And I have the NFL gave us a curriculum, but we talk about money, financial education. We talk about emotional intelligence. We talk about healthy and unhealthy relationships. And, now I'm no longer at the Texans. I was there 13 years, but I'm 17 years of working with athletes of all different areas. And I can tell you stories that you just can't imagine how targeted these guys get by people. And how my job in the classroom was to help them know some of these stories and have their eyes wide open.
Before something bad happens to them.
Yes. And I cannot tell you how many of my former players either call me, still see me, I run into, will say, okay, Karen, so I got in the class and I was so bummed I had to spend an hour in a classroom because they're tired by the time they got to my classroom in the afternoon. And they'd go, and you gave us examples of things that could happen in families when you get money. And I sat there and said, not my family. And he goes, I've had 2 guys tell me this. It happened exactly as you said it in my family. I couldn't believe it. I just knew it would never happen, meaning family becoming gold diggers, having high expectations, big pressure, people you've never met coming out of the closet.
You know, and this is just my question is, do you talk to them about how to handle the public? Because I've been in elevators with a number of athletes around Houston. There are a lot of athletes around Houston. Occasionally you run into them.
Yeah.
And they're casually, like Jose Altuve, very friendly, very nice, will take a quick selfie in public. But if you get on an elevator with them, they're very quiet. It's almost like they are told, love your public, be polite, but not sincere.
No one tells them that.
You know what I mean?
No.
It's like, be guarded.
Well, everyone's got a personality, and you've got a very outgoing personality. So you're a public figure. If you're on an elevator, you're probably going to say hi to anyone that talks to you. But if you're not outgoing, if you're more introverted, or more socially kind of like unsure of yourself, that would make sense because you're in a box. You know?
Yeah.
But when you see these guys at training camp, most of them will go sign autographs, but not everybody, because everyone's different. And as you become known as an Astro, a Rocket, a Texan, people want something from you. Could be an autograph, but they want to tell you who they know, or they want to critique your job, Frank. I can't tell you how hard it is for these men. Think about this. You've been on TV. If you get on social media, you probably saw people critique you doing the weather or Hello Houston. Well, every Sunday, people critique their job.
Sure.
You understand? We don't go through that, those of us that aren't like you and the Texans. But these young men are busting their guts.
Their helmets.
Their helmets to do the best they can. And people have the audacity to put them down and, try to tell them what they're doing right or wrong. Now, they can say, gosh, I wish you would have, tackled better. Or, I know you're working on it. But no, it's none of that. It's, name calling and ugliness. And then there's the women trying to get favors from them, trying to date them. And there's women that are trying to get pregnant by them. So they have a paycheck.
What is the number one pitfall that they'll almost always fall into if someone like you doesn't warn them?
The number one, you mean what could be dangerous to them?
Well,
what
yeah.
could be
What's the stumbling
problematic
block? The first stumbling block. I've got money. I've got a big job. I'm a pro athlete.
That's the stumbling block. I have money and I have a job. NFL, not for long.
Right. You think that it's
That's
there.
the stumbling block. I mean, you look at some very famous players that had guaranteed contracts, and it didn't go well for them. They got a little big for themselves. And I think that anyone without a guaranteed contract has to be careful. And with a guaranteed contract, you have to be careful about your behavior, your conversation. You represent your city, your team, your family, your state, and the NFL. You are a representative. And it's like you being here representing NPR. That's who you represent. And I think that these young men have to really pay attention to behavior and watching who they walk with, who their crew is, who their homeboys are. Because you have these homeboys that are not healthy. You get in the NFL, the homeboys know you have money, you're running with them, and you're getting arrested. It happens every year to these young men. because they go, oh, but they're my homeboys. I knew them. They were great.
Yep.
Well, yeah, but they're carrying weapons or they're doing something illegal and you're riding with them. That's a pitfall. You've got to really adjust. What's my focus? What are my morals? What are my ethics? Who do I walk with?
You're really the den mother.
Yes. I love being their den mother. I think these men are amazing. I truly admire them. And it was just so much of a pleasure to work with these men.
I guess now all teams have some sort of counselor.
They do.
Have you written the book yet?
Nope. I've given the speeches, though, like I'm doing here. I love to talk to groups about my topic is what's really going on the inside of the NFL.
And so now that they're getting back on the field, what have they been doing all summer?
Relaxing and working out.
So that's sort of their life.
Well, if you don't work out in the summer, you might not make the team. When you get in 100-degree heat and you've got pads on, coaches know immediately who's not been working out.
Do they go with a playbook of workouts, like here's what you're expected to do every day? Or do they just say, work out all summer, we'll see you in the fall?
Work out all summer, but they've been, if they've been in college, they have their college routine. Every team has professional trainers, so they know what they've been doing. Some guys get together. Some guys from different teams get together and work out. Like they'll go somewhere and work out for the summer or for a few weeks or a month. So these are professionals. And if you have a professional mentality, you're making sure you have vacation, you're resting your body, and you're keeping it in shape, you're eating well. You know, this is really important. I mean, you don't have long to be in this profession.
True.
Yeah. I mean,
that's why it pays well up front.
You're lucky if you make it 3 years. You're really lucky.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever taken a life lesson from them?
Oh, 1,000. I mean, yes. First of all, their ability to handle the stress has helped me so much because I watch, can you imagine you've got a locker in the locker room. You've made it to the NFL, and you've watched 8 men come in and out to the locker next to you. How do you manage that fear? How do you manage when you want something so bad and it may not happen for you? We've all felt that, I think. I speak for myself. But many of us have felt like we wanted something so bad, and it just didn't happen. And how do you manage that grief, that loss, that expectation? And I watch these young men manage. Oh, my goodness. They're amazing. They're just amazing.
Wow. So, who's your favorite team?
Gosh, Frank, that's a hard question. Can I get back to you? Listen, I think the Texans are on the right track right now. They're doing a great job. They have a tremendous head coach and general manager, and Cal and Hannah are really being thoughtful about how they think about this $6 billion company holistically. And I say it that way because they've really beefed up the mental health part of this business, and I'm really proud of them. I think it's amazing what they're doing.
Well, go Texans. All right, Karen Winston, thank you for being a friend of Frank.
I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much.
That was Karen Winston, a licensed master social worker, a clinical assistant professor at Baylor College of Medicine, and former psychotherapist to the Houston Texans. She spoke with Hello Houston's Frank Billingsley. Coming up, we're going to continue discussing today's top headlines. We're also going to talk with Harris County Judge candidate Marty Lancton about his platform. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Alley Theater, presenting Real Women Have Curves, the play that inspired the film, following 5 women balancing family, work, and cultural expectations with humor and heart. Opens January 23rd, alleytheater.org. Support comes from Houston Chamber Choir, presenting What Have We Done Today? A choral collaboration with guest conductor Jason Max Ferdinand. Saturday, February 21st at South Main Baptist Church. Tickets at houstonchamberchoir.org/radio.
We're looking for a sunny day today with a high near 67, and then tonight clear skies, a low close to 40. 58 tomorrow with sunny skies, Thursday night clear skies, and a low near 45. Currently we have a few clouds, but mostly sunny, and it's 61. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead this hour on Hello Houston, many Texas private schools are being barred from the state's new school voucher program. We'll discuss which schools are facing exclusion and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman. We'll also talk with Harris County Judge candidate Marty Lancton, who will join us to talk about his platform and take questions from Hello Houston listeners.
Plus, we'll also chat with Houston-based storm chaser Hank Schyma, who will tell us more about storm chasing and his fascinating career.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The FBI searched a Washington Post journalist's home this morning. It was court-authorized. NPR's Ryan Lucas reports the search was part of a government investigation into whether classified information was leaked.
The FBI searched the home of Washington Post journalist Hannah Natanson, who has been one of the newspaper's lead reporters on the Trump administration's efforts to reshape the federal workforce. In a post on social media, Attorney General Pam Bondi did not identify Natanson by name, but said the FBI executed the search warrant at the home of a Washington Post reporter who was receiving classified information from a Pentagon contractor. The FBI search sparked immediate concern among First Amendment advocates. The president of the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, Bruce Brown, called the search, quote, a tremendous escalation in the administration's intrusions into the independence of the press. Ryan Lucas, NPR News, Washington.
The State Department says it is putting a hold on visa applications linked to 75 countries where the administration says citizens are likely to depend on public assistance while living in the U.S. It is still unclear which countries are targeted. The suspension is expected to begin in a week. A U.S. official not authorized to speak publicly confirms with NPR that some American military personnel are leaving the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Also, the Qatari government said in a social media statement, evacuations of some personnel, quote, are being undertaken in response to the current regional tensions, end quote. The special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, says the U.S. brokered ceasefire plan for Gaza is moving into the next phase, demilitarizing Gaza, establishing a technocratic government, and rebuilding. His post on X today says Hamas must immediately return the final deceased hostage and fully comply with the agreement. Hamas accuses Israel of repeatedly violating the ceasefire. The president of Poland says President Trump is the only global leader capable of standing up to Russian President Vladimir Putin, the comment coming during a trip to the UK. Here's NPR's Lauren Freyer.
Polish President Karol Nawrocki told the BBC he thinks Trump is the only leader capable of stopping the Russian president and his ongoing war in Ukraine.
It means that we have to do everything to support Donald Trump to solve this problem. This is the most important thing. And, I trust myself.
Nawrocki says the U.S. president has, quote, unique authority and leverage to bring Moscow to the negotiating table. The Polish president is a far-right historian, amateur boxer, and longtime supporter of Trump. He says he sees Europe detaching itself from Washington and disapproves, adding that he believes the U.S. is still the guarantor of Europe's security. Lauren Freyer, NPR News, London.
The Dow is down 257 points. It's NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. The two candidates for the runoff for Texas Congressional District 18 met for a debate Tuesday evening at the Luke Church in Humble. One of the main issues they addressed was how to protect voting rights. Former Houston City Council member Amanda Edwards pledged to work to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
We know why the Trump administration, why Governor Abbott has taken the liberty to try to take our vote away, because that is going to be access to our freedom.
Former Harris County Attorney Christian Manouse similarly pledged to work to pass the Freedom to Vote Act while pointing to his work fighting voter suppression in Texas.
When Ken Paxton, our Attorney General, came out here and tried to get more than 2,000 legally cast ballots thrown out, I took him to court, beat him, and every single one of those votes was restored.
Menifee and Edwards refrained from attacking each other during the hour-long debate, saving their fire for Trump, Abbott, and other Republican leaders. As many as 500,000 people could come to Houston in June for the 2026 World Cup. With 7 matches, Houston is one of the leading destinations for World Cup tourists. Travel agency Kayak reports searches for inbound flights to Houston are up 250% year over year.
Houston is definitely at the top of the list. The only 2 host cities that are currently surpassing Houston in terms of a surge in interest are Boston and Dallas.
That was Sarah Kennedy. She is a travel trends expert with Kayak. In all, the World Cup could bring a $1.5 billion economic impact to Houston alone. Hear what Houston's World Cup host committee is planning for those tourists. That's coming up this afternoon on News 88.7 In Depth. University of Houston police are looking for an armed man who held up a student on campus early this morning. This happened just after midnight near the Accessibility Center off Cougar Village Drive. The victim told UH security officers she was approached by the suspect who pulled a firearm and demanded she send him money via Cash App. After she complied, the suspect took her cell phone and wallet and fled the area. Anyone with information is asked to contact UH police. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their premium travel card, Venture X. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Thanks for joining us in the second hour of Hello Houston. Today is January 14th, and we're actually having a really nice day. It's going to be mostly sunny with a high of 67.
I thought you just meant us.
No, and tonight you can expect breezy kind of atmosphere with a low of 41.
Yeah. Do you have nighttime rituals and that they're timed out?
Yes.
Because I've learned now with Mom and my cats and me, it takes a good 45 minutes from the moment I think I'm going to bed till I can actually crawl into bed.
Yeah.
How about for you? How long?
Oh, yeah. Bedtime, 2 hours.
2 hours? Oh,
yeah.
You got 2 little ones.
You have, and they, you say, okay, we're going to bed at 8. To get them to actually go to sleep is at 9 o'clock. So you start earlier.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, okay, lights out. And then, Mommy, I'm thirsty. Mommy, I have to potty. Yes. So
my mom always had her last set of pills she had to take was 10 o'clock. So we set life for 10 o'clock is when she goes to bed. And then I thought, well, why? She could take them at 9:15. So we moved it up, and now I can have that all taken care of by 10 o'clock, and that part of the house closed down by then. Yes. So fascinating things I share with you here. Something else fascinating, we were talking after we put a poll up on YouTube when Friends of Frank was airing about some jobs come with a lot of fame and fortune. Would you rather be rich or famous? And the choices were rich, famous, or I want both. I think it should have been rich, famous, or I don't want any of this, you know? But it turns out you YouTubers, guess what they want? They want the money. They want to be rich. 86% of you would take rich. 14% of you want both. Nobody wants to be just famous.
Well, no. that sounds terrible. Just to be famous and not have anything else that goes with it, like the monetary.
But a lot goes with the fame.
I don't know.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, you access attention.
True. But I would much rather have
the money. Well, every day we do put up polls over on YouTube. So when you're watching the show, they tie back to what we're talking about. Wait, Celeste has an idea.
And you're assuming that attention and access would be a positive attention and access.
Famous over infamous.
Okay.
I don't think I'd choose infamy, though I may end up there by the time I'm done.
You know, I think one of the questions around fame that we really kind of deep dived into since the whole reality TV has come onto the media landscape, there's a lot of questions around that. And influencers.
Do you feel that reality celebrity has taken an ugly turn? Like for a while, it seemed to be like all these folks wanted to be reality TV famous, you know, and build their social media and all that. And I think now the whole zeitgeist has shifted, where reality fame is seen as kind of a negative now.
See, I think it's changed. I think that it started out, you know, when Kim Kardashian came on the scene, she wasn't taken seriously. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden she built this huge empire, and then it was like, oh, okay, you can make something out of this if you're business savvy and you're smart. I do think it took a downturn in the early 2010 type era. I think it's back to a place where people want still reality fame and look at reality celebrities as legit. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've told this story before, and I will probably tell it many times again. But I had a friend who was well known in the reality world, but not for great things. They had done something that was slightly embarrassing, I would say, or show them in a negative light. And he had no problem with that because his reaction to something else I had talked to him about was once, but they are talking about me, right? And that was more important than why they were talking about him or how they were talking about, just that he was still on people's lips. So,
no, thank you.
No, thank you either. I want to be known for Hello Houston right here and the fine work we do. There's a lot coming up on today's show. We're going to chase some storms, and we're going to chase the Harris County judge seat. Both of those coming up. Marty Lancton's going to be here, and Hank Schyma is going to be here with us as well, talking about storm chasing. But we're going to chase the headlines. Celeste.
The Houston Chronicle reports a holdup in Texas's new school voucher program. Hundreds of private schools, including mostly accredited by Cognia, have been unable to apply while the state comptroller awaits a legal opinion on whether some Islamic and Chinese-linked schools can be blocked. Only 30 of the 600 Cognia-accredited schools, mostly pre-K and kindergarten, have been approved so far. Applications for families are set to open in just over 3 weeks. This holdup appears to be again linked to a request that Acting Comptroller Kelly Hancock made to the Attorney General Paxton's office on December 10th, seeking a legal opinion on whether certain schools could be barred from the program for their alleged ties to the Chinese government or the Council on American Islamic Relations, which Governor Greg Abbott designated as a terror group. What are your thoughts on school vouchers shutting out private schools? Are you in favor of checking out foreign ties to the schools before letting them take part? Now you can join us on Hello Houston at 713-440-8870.
I'll say that this story for me brings up a lot of different things I'd never even thought about in this.
Same.
And I guess my uneducated point of view on this is to start off, isn't the whole point of this so private schools could be playing against you? Your parents would put you in a private school as opposed to public schools. That was the whole point of it. But now finding out, well, maybe these private schools aren't exactly. Well, I would almost say, shouldn't we have investigated all of that before we passed this whole law into effect and started these school vouchers? That maybe we don't have a good enough handle over the private schools that are out there to know what's going on there. And I'll let you speak in a second. But I also want to say it never even occurred to me that these private schools would have ties to the Chinese government or any councils on anything other than education organizations that were, I just assumed, American-based. My eyes are opened by this, but I just think there's more of a mismanagement at the front end of all of this.
Yes.
That's your point on it. Yeah.
Yes. I think that this is one of those things where people, when they were looking at the governor expanding the school voucher program, this was part of those questions that why were we doing it so quickly at such a rapid race without the due diligence of making sure that these schools were accredited properly, that we were looking at, making sure that the private school sector was prepared for this, as well as our our state government prepared to work with these private schools. The other part of this headline that I find concerning is that it's ironic that this was Governor Greg Abbott designated the American Islamic Relations terror group, and so it's one of those things where it's very complex. We'll continue to monitor it.
Speaking of monitoring, so I'm looking over at our YouTubers and what they're saying. And, oh no, school vouchers is pretty sketchy. Another one, are these foreign-linked schools sending money to foreign countries or organizations? And then another comment we got, there you go, Ernie, using logic again. Haven't you learned yet? I'm hoping everyone will come onto the logic train. And last comment, I wouldn't think that the money is going abroad, but still not in trusted hands. I do want to say, though, that this is a grouping of schools we're talking about. We are not in any way saying all private schools have ties to things that aren't. There are many, many very upstanding schools. My point goes all the way back to before all of this happened. I think a better use of all of this attention and resource would be to improve our public schools, make them more accessible, better at what they do, make sure that they can educate our students, that the teachers aren't overburdened. All of that I would have liked to have seen the emphasis of all of this.
I also find that it's concerning that we are now looking at private school education and separating ones that are parochial within the Christian base versus ones that are not Christian. And that's also a problem, because the whole point of school vouchers is to offer parents choices and give them options. And so now we're going to be excluding private schools from receiving that as an actual option.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out. Do you have a thought on it? Do you have a better understanding of some area of this? Is it something you are dealing with? What do you think about these schools and who's getting accredited and who isn't? Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Okay, I've got another story.
Yep.
Also an education story. Curious your thoughts on this one. The risk of using generative artificial intelligence to educate children and teens currently overshadows the benefits. That is according to a new study by the Brookings Institute Center for Universal Education. The sweeping study included focus groups and interviews with K-12 students, parents, educators, and tech experts in 50 countries, as well as literature reviews of hundreds of research articles. It found that using AI in education can, quote, undermine children's foundational development, and that the damage it is already caused are daunting but fixable. Because generative AI is still young, ChatGPT, believe it or not, was only released about 3 years ago. The report's authors dubbed this review a pre-mortem, intended to study AI's potential in the classroom without a post-mortem benefit of time and long-term data or hindsight. So what do you think? AI being used in schools. Is it, as the headline says, helpful or harmful? Give us a call. What do you think? 713-440-8870.
It's interesting, right? I think that we can find a balance here. I think it's something AI, artificial intelligence, is going to be something that our students need to be literate in. We need to understand how to use it. As we look at the workforce, we know that people have to be able to work and understand it. Do I think it has a place in our education system? Yes. Do I think it needs to be leading the way or changing the way we are educating our students? Not necessarily. I think that our students need to be able to put a pencil to paper and do math and do understanding all of the critical thinking skills that goes into basic pen to paper.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying. I keep thinking of that video you see on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, where they're always saying, AI is the most intelligent thing we have ever created, and yet 99% of the people just use it as a Google search engine. And I think, we haven't figured out how to fully use it yet. An easy visual for me is think about what the Wright brothers airplane looked like and think about the luxury airliners that we have out there today. There's a lot of advancement that's going to come in this technology and how it works and how we use it and how we understand it. This is the very early days of this. Is it causing harm? It probably is if used as they're talking about and incorrectly, and that you're not teaching the student how to use it as a tool of theirs, but to be dependent on it.
The other day, my daughter got on, she'll sit next to me and she looks at different things and she loves to watch slime videos and this and that. And there was a video of a dog making slime and it looked so real. And she was freaked out. I mean, she was like, oh my gosh, Mom, you have to see it. She was freaking out. And that's when I realized, okay, this is where we are going to have to teach our kids media and AI literacy to be able to distinguish this is not real. You cannot do that. The dogs cannot make slime, from what I know. And it's going to be important that we make sure our kids are well versed in understanding what is just the way how they can be able to recognize misinformation. They need to be able to understand what something is being made that's from artificial intelligence.
Right. You have to learn how to use the tools that technology and advancement in the human race will continue to give us. And if we don't stay on top of it, it'll get on top of us.
That's right.
That wasn't a great line, but it sounded good in my head.
713-440-8870. We do have a call. We have a couple of calls that we're going to try to get to. Tammy from Southwest Houston is on the line regarding school vouchers. Tammy, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Well, I think you guys bring up incredible points because a lot of times people think, private schools, they're Christian schools, they're American. We really need to look at this because the United States has enemies. Surprise, surprise. We have enemies. We have enemies that want to bring this country down. And we used to have a situation where we taught students, the things that were great about America. The Constitution, the freedom, the Bill of Rights, things like that. And it seems like there's this constant tearing down of the United States that's there. It's continuing. And we need to reverse that. And probably more than likely it's, how good and great the United States is and everything that makes the United States great is probably not being taught in Chinese schools. It's probably not being taught in Islamic schools because we don't know. We don't know what they're teaching. We don't know what their modus operandi is.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Tammy, were you like me in that this caught you off guard? You'd never thought about that when it came to these schools?
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
No, I did not.
Yeah.
I did not.
Tammy, thank you for calling and sharing your point of view with us.
And again, 713-440-8870. Let's go to John from Cyprus.
Hi, I've got a question about the school voucher thing, too. I was wondering if they're going to do this, if they're going to start looking into the backgrounds and doing these checks on the recipients that are private schools, shouldn't they be doing that with individuals? I mean, if you're a domestic terrorist, if you're one of these far-right domestic terrorist groups, if you're a member of one of those or member of the Klan, are we going to fund that through these programs? Are we going to fund somebody that's with this brotherhood group? That's my question.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good question and even a more broad sense of that whole thing. It's if we are authorizing all of these schools, there has to be check in every single one. And does it meet the state guidelines? And I think that's part of the slowdown here is that of all of these 600 schools we were talking about in this particular story, only 30 so far have been vetted. It does bring a huge burden on. It's not as simple as saying, okay, there are these schools, you can go there. Each one does have to be checked and regulated. The beauty in the public school system is that you have a structure already in place. You have management that's overseeing these schools. You have school boards that are managing these particular schools. And I think unless I misunderstand the structuring of private schools and religious schools, a lot of them seem to function independently, and each one is going to need oversight. It seems like quite a burden.
Yes, and we also received a text from Megan in the Woodlands. If people are worried about funds ultimately benefiting and or going to a foreign country or organization, shouldn't we be equally worried about government funds supporting religious schools? Do we know how religious schools are funded outside of their supporting/joint religious organization or church? Again, all great questions. Again, you're listening to Hello Houston on News 88.7. We will continue our conversation. Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk to Harris County Judge candidate Marty Lancton. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Michael Schaefer. My partner Ellen and I have been proud supporters of public radio and TV for decades.
We really would be lost without our daily fix of unbiased national and local news, cultural programming, and great entertainment.
But with recent federal defunding, stations like Houston Public Media face real challenges.
Now's the time to step up.
Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Thank you.
President Trump made it clear he wants the Department of Education shut down. Education Secretary Linda McMahon is on board with that plan.
Education is local. It should be overseen locally by those who best know local needs.
1 year into the second Trump presidency, what's happening inside the Department of Education? Our series.gov continues next time on 1A.
You can listen to 1A this afternoon starting at 2 o'clock.
Support comes from Rothko Chapel, presenting the 31st MLK birthday observance. We Got Us, Health and Care Beyond Capitalism, on January 15th at 6:30 p.m. More information at rothkochapel.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Clarion at Brazosport College, presenting the Westerly's Brass Quartet, performing in concert on Friday, January 16th. More information at brazosport.edu/Clarion.
Support comes from the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research. More at stlukeshealth.org/cancer.
Support comes from Discovery Green Conservancy, presenting Houston's outdoor ice skating rink, offering a wintertime experience for all, surrounded by public art and downtown views. Open through February 16th. More at discoverygreen.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and Celeste Díaz Schurman.
In continuing our coverage of the race for Harris County Judge, we welcome Marty Lancton, the president of Houston Professional Firefighters Association and candidate for Harris County Judge. Marty, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me. I love the new studio. I haven't been back since it's been remodeled, so it looks amazing.
Yes, and if you would like to join the conversation, you can give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870. Our new studio is definitely a vibe, Marty.
Yeah.
It is nice.
Okay, Marty, we'll start you right off here at the obvious first question. Sure. Is Harris County ripe and ready for a Republican county judge?
I think Harris County has been ripe and ready for common sense to reign over the county judge position for a very long time, since Judge Ed Emmett left. And it absolutely is. I think what people are looking for is people that have relationships that can get the resources to Harris County. We understand better than anybody the partisan politics of the day. But the reality is that the role of the county judge is to get the resources to the people that we swore an oath to protect. And that is what I will do as Harris County Judge. If you are constantly fighting with your partners on the regional level and the state level, that means resources can't get to Harris County. That is precisely why I am proud that Governor Greg Abbott has endorsed me. And that means there's trust in a relationship that is built. I think the Speaker of the House, Dustin Burrows, who is a good friend who has endorsed my campaign as well, has said it best when he came down. He said 40% of the issues that they deal with at the legislature are because of the things going on in Harris County. That's a problem. And while we're focused on all of the noise, the people that we're supposed to be taking care of aren't being taken care of. Flooding isn't getting taken care of. Crime and public safety isn't getting taken care of. Infrastructure isn't getting taken care of. And something that nobody talks about in this race, but I will, and that's the need for good paying jobs. We have port expansion going on. We have a number of things in the last 3 decades. We were told, the only path is to go to college. We need good trade, blue-collar worker jobs. We don't have enough people to fill them. And when people are making the money that they need to take care of their families, they're here in Harris County to be a part of this amazing county that is resilient in every way.
Just as a button on this, what we're talking about, we know the governor has said he wanted to turn the Harris County deep red. Are you a pivotal point in helping make that happen?
Well, I think if you look at the policies that have been enacted for years, and my question to people is the flooding and the infrastructure, has it gotten better for you and your families? No, it hasn't. Have your taxes gone up and not down? Yes, they have. And the reality is that the quality of life that people deserve is that a transparent government is here and that you build the trust within the community. Because dealing with the issues that I had to deal with firefighters for nearly a decade, people told me that it couldn't be done. You can't pay your first responders. A $7 billion budget, they were saying we were broke. And guess what? They weren't. I had to go take on the establishment and the system. And what I can tell you is that it's going to take all of us coming together to fix these problems. But it starts with being honest and transparent with people. And so the answer to your question is that the governor has made it clear. Instead of you have a county leadership that all they do is virtue signal and yell and scream and get into fights that have nothing to do with the role of county government while resources are not being funded. So the distrust between local county officials and the state doesn't serve Harris County residents. And so when you're working with your partners to provide the resources, and I'll give you an example of why this matters. When Hurricane Harvey hit and you had then Land Commissioner George P. Bush gave $0 for flood mitigation afterwards. Now, I was here in the thick of it, and if you were Republican or Democrat, I can tell you everybody said that is wholly inappropriate and not okay. When the now commissioner, Dr. Dawn Buckingham, when she was elected during her transition period, appointed me to her transition team. And the number one thing I said and advocated for is we have to repair the relationship at Harris County. We've got to get the resources where they need to go in spite of all the differences. Within 90 days, our land commissioner, Dr. Dawn Buckingham, got $800 million in flood mitigation dollars to Harris County, to the flood control district. That is what the power of the Harris County judge can be at a level that people have not seen, working together to get the resources we need.
You are listening to Hello Houston. We are speaking to Marty Lancton, the president of the Houston Professional Firefighters Association and candidate for Harris County Judge. We do have quite a few calls, so if you want to put your headphones on coming through. Before we get to those, Marty, I do have a question for you. Today we just heard from the newly appointed interim Harris County attorney, Jonathan Fombonne. He was discussing the size of Harris County and how the governor has been talking about, threatening taking over Harris County elections. If elected to be the Harris County judge, what are you going to prioritize and how are you going to get alignment from our county commissioners to achieve this? And then we will grab those calls after this comment.
How much time do you have? I mean, the simplistic reality is that you have to start with building trust within the community and elected leaders, even people that don't agree with your positions. There has to be a level of trust involved. Crime and public safety is the number one priority. That is why I'm proud to be endorsed by the Houston Police Officers Union, the Harris County Deputies Organization, the Metro Police, and so many more that protect our great county and city. But we have to be talking. We have to be working together. And when you have distrust, the easiest thing in politics is for somebody to say it's their problem, it's their fault, and nothing ever gets solved. You've got to get the people that are in the room that are focused on the strategies of fixing the county government. We are spending money where it does not need to go. We are spending it on things that are not the requirement of county government. And because of that, we have failed projects. We don't have shovels in the ground for infrastructure. We are not addressing the flooding, and that doesn't help anybody.
Mm-hmm. And again, 713-440-8870. You can join the conversation if you have a comment or question for Harris County Judge candidate Marty Lancton. Again, 713-440-8870. Let's go to Alejandra from Montrose, or Alexandra. Welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Hi, my question for Marty is, if you could sum up your leadership style in a sentence or two, what would it be?
Well, thank you. Is it Alexandra? Is that? Yeah. Thank you for the question. Very simple. My leadership style is being effective. If we are not effective in what it is that we do, and we can't show the results to the people that we represent, then all we are talking about is noise.
Mm-hmm. And I do have a question. Oftentimes, being effective sounds great, but it also comes with a price. And one of the issues that we see in Harris County is our budget. How do you plan to be fiscally responsible with Harris County tax dollars as well as being effective?
Well, here's the good news is that having the experience of taking on a corrupt administration that attacked the firefighters with a $7 billion budget, nearly $7 billion, saying that there was no money, facts matter. And so people are allowed to have their own opinions, but at the end of the day, the facts have to reign. And when you look at the way that the budgeting is done, you look at all the other entities in the county, you look at all the surplus money in certain places, you look at the non-transparency in others, it starts with a simple message. Your tax money should be responsible to you. We have to be very transparent and open up the books. We cannot play the game where everybody is in their silo and nobody's talking. I was up at the legislature last year, and I not only advocated but testified to a bill that simply would allow Harris County residents to know where the $300 to $400 million excess toll road money is going. Mm-hmm. Now, why would anybody have a problem with that? That's the question that I have for your listeners.
Let me ask a quick question, then I want to get back to the phones. A few minutes ago, you listed a bunch of topics that you said aren't getting taken care of.
Yes.
In your opinion, why are they not getting taken care of? Is it a lack of leadership? Is it a lack of ability? Was it a lack of focus? Was it infighting? Why? Because we've had lots of candidates through here. They all can kind of point to the exact same problems and issues we face. Why hasn't it been taken care of, do you think?
Well, I think all of the above. And I think what really happens, and if you want my honest opinion, because I'm a pretty straight shooter, those that have known me for a very long time, I think the truth matters in the end always, and the right thing does matter. But when you have people in this large of a county, the news cycle is so fast. And by the time you start understanding one piece of a budget or a project, and you get invested in it, you get confused. And then by the time you figure out that the equation that they're giving you is 2 + 2 = 5, and you're saying, well, that's not right. Well, good people want to see first, am I missing something? And by the time you get down and waste all of your time to realize that the way that it was presented was not only intentionally misleading, but it was intended for another purpose. So how do you solve problems when you can't have an honest, direct dialogue with people? That means that you call a ball and a strike, but you don't get to hide the ball. And that's precisely what we have seen, and that's precisely the way that the system has been set up. When you have quasi-governmental entities, you have HECTRA, you've got all these different organizations and all these different entities that either get appointed by politicians, so then they pass the buck and say it's them, but they're the ones that have statutory control over them. Then who is responsible? The buck has to stop somewhere, and the buck is going to stop with me as the Harris County judge in my administration. We do not tolerate people that are using your tax dollars or using their own personal interest and purposes to do things that are not in the interest of Harris County taxpayers.
We're speaking with Marty Lancton, who is running as in the primary for Republicans for Harris County Judge. Let's go back to the phones. It's 713-440-8870. Joe, you're on the line. What's your question, comment?
Thanks for taking my question. Marty, you've talked about restoring trust in county government. Can you give a concrete example of what you would change right away as county judge?
I think I missed the first part. Did y'all? What was the?
You've spoken of restoring faith trust in county government.
In county government, what would be the first thing that you would change?
On day one, we're going to do an audit of every department. You've got to start. You have to build the trust. And why is more critically important to build trust within Harris County residents is because one of the key roles of Harris County judges to be the person that is in charge that families and people in Harris County look to during disasters. Mm-hmm. We cannot allow and afford to have a Harris County judge that is getting into an argument and a fight with the largest city in the county during a natural disaster. That absolutely is something that you're taught when it comes to dealing with emergencies. You have to be the adult and the calm one in the room. And regardless of your own feelings, it's not about you. It is about the safety of everybody else. So you have to have those pieces in place. Otherwise, when you're telling people, here is a storm coming, here is a disaster that's coming, they have to trust the person at the helm is telling you the truth.
Do you want to do the audit because you believe that there has been misappropriations, or is it more of a symbol to show what you would do in office?
No, I absolutely believe that there is money that is being spent by Harris County Commissioners Court that should not be spent in places, whether statutorily or the public is not aware of where those funds are actually going. For an example, going back to the Hector bill, Harris County Commissioners Court, I said, well, who controls the money? Well, they gavel out as the Harris County Commissioners Court. They gavel back in as the Board of Directors for HECTRA. And then they divide up the money. And the question I have is, does anybody know specifically where all that money is going? That's a problem. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't have a question. And I started this, over a decade ago when I came in as the president, and I looked at the budget and I said, what am I missing? And I realized that the game that gets played in government is all the moving around and shuffling to where you can never get a direct answer for a question. And that actually goes to where you can't have the infrastructure jobs. Think about all of the waste, fraud, and abuse, and that if you can cut down on duplication of services, how many more projects can we get built, and how many more residents can we then take care of? That's where I come from. I am not a career politician. I am somebody with a career that has taken on not only an establishment in the city that said, don't look over here. You can't look underneath the hood. In fact, the mayors repeatedly, and a lot of them weren't shy about it, said, I'm only here for a short amount of time and I'm not going to fix the systemic problems because I'm not going to be here to see it get fixed. I have a problem with that. This isn't about one person. This is about leaving Harris County better. And this is about taking the next generation to do bold and great things that actually people can look at and take with them.
And again, 713-440-8870. We do have a few calls waiting. Let's go to Mary from Spring Branch. Mary, what is your comment or question for Marty?
Hi, I just wanted to ask about Governor Abbott's endorsement of Marty. I want to know, how do you think that will help Harris County if you're elected?
Well, thank you, Mary. The reality is cut all the politics and the political rhetoric, because as you pointed out, everybody that comes on either listens to somebody else and what their rhetoric is, and they parrot it, and they don't actually know what it means. If you actually want to be effective and get things done, you have to get into a room. I don't run away from complex problems. I run towards them because they have to be fixed. And with that, when you have statewide leadership that needs to instill trust that when we're getting resources that they're going where they're supposed to go, that is so critical to the role of not only Harris County judge, but to the residents of Harris County. Imagine a world where there is not only the trust that comes with keeping your word, but your actions and what you have done to take care of the people you're supposed to take care of. Imagine what we can do in Harris County when we're not arguing about things that have nothing to do with Harris County government. And all it does is cause people to go in the corners. And because of that, the resources don't come here.
713-440-8870. We're speaking with Marty Lancton, who's a candidate for Harris County Judge. Bob from Timber Grove Manor, you're up next. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Marty, what impact do you think this county judge can have on the wasteful spending by individual commissioners? And as an example, 2 or 3 of them have been really good about sending out 12 to 14-page full-color brochures, i.e. report, and at least one had several highway billboards lauding their performance. How do you feel about that?
Well, the good news about having an understanding of how government works at every level is because I've been there. I have passed bills in the legislature unanimously. Governor Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, the Speaker of the House, and all of the members that we work with. I can tell you that if you know how to get the resources and the funding where it's supposed to go with direct allocations and strings, meaning if I give you $100 to say we need to get this pothole fixed, there shouldn't be, that $100 shouldn't go anywhere else. So there are ways to do things that get the resources to where they need to go, provide transparency to the taxpayers, and cut out the nonsense. I don't have time for it. And those that have known me over the years, listen, when I took on the establishment, they come out of the woodworks and they try to do everything possible to destroy you because bad people don't want good things to happen. Because the way that things were going, it was fine for some or a few, but it wasn't good for the many. And the way I not only lead, but the way that I believe government should work is have honest dialogues, get everybody in the room. I'm not afraid to go have conversations with people who disagree with me. In fact, I invite them to the table because eventually, if you leave people out, that's where all the rhetoric comes from. And sometimes in politics, I know this is shocking to hear, the world is not absolute. We've gotten to this world where if I don't parrot something and I don't do something absolute and then I say everything about me and what I did was right, that is not how the real world works or how you work through complex problems. I spent 8 years of my life defending the bravest men and women I had the honor of representing. And I said, we know it's bad. And people said, what are you going to do? I said, what are you willing to do? Mm-hmm. And what I was willing to do is to make sure that I left nothing on the table. And that's what it takes to make these changes. But it can happen, and it does happen for people that aren't bought and sold, that aren't parroting things that they think people want to hear. They want honest government, and it's time for that to be back in Harris County. Time for us to be off the front page, and it's time for us to be focused on the great aspects of Harris County because I tell people publicly, in spite of the dysfunction in county government, we have the most amazing county, the economic engine of Texas in the port. We have all these amazing business owners, all these amazing people that make Harris County what it is, in spite of the way that government doesn't work. Permitting, don't get me started on that. That is absolutely atrocious. If we have people and we're attracting businesses and jobs to Harris County, we need to do everything possible to streamline projects so that we're helping people who are wanting to invest in our communities.
Marty Lancton is president of the Houston Professional Firefighters Association and a candidate for Harris County Judge. Marty, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you all very much. I really enjoyed it. Anytime.
And coming up, we're going to talk to Hank Schyma. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
News 88.7.
Your support for Houston Public Media powers the programs you trust and rely on. And your employer may help your contribution go even further. Many employers sponsor matching gift programs, doubling or even tripling employee contributions. It's an easy way to maximize your impact on the programs you rely on. Search for your company and get started today at houstonpublicmedia.org/match.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Baylor College of Medicine. With 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, Nature presents Tusker, Brotherhood of Elephants. Follow the lives of elephant bulls in Mount Kilimanjaro and get a rare glimpse into the complexity of these giants. Tonight at 7 on TV8.
Support comes from Belmont Village Senior Living, committed to enriching the lives of seniors through daily programs, custom care, and hospitality in assisted living and memory care. 2 Houston area locations. More at belmontvillage.com/Houston. Support for Houston Public Media comes from arbitrator, mediator, and attorney Sylvia Mayer. providing in-person and video conference arbitration and mediation services. More information available at smayorlaw.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and Celeste Díaz Schurman.
Hank Schyma is a Houston-based musician, author, filmmaker, and most notably a professional storm chaser. For over 30 years, Hank has documented some of the world's most extreme tornadoes and thunderstorms, and his work has appeared in several movies and documentaries, including for National Geographic, BBC, Discovery, and many more. In addition to amassing a substantial following on YouTube with over 1 million subscribers. How'd you do that? I've known you for years. I would have never thought 1 million people would follow you. This past year, Hank released the book Storm, Chasing Nature's Wildest Weather, which brings together the best of his work, photography, personal stories, as well as explanations of the science behind the storms. And I'm thrilled to have a dear friend of mine, Hank, on the show. This isn't Friends of Frank, it's Friends of Ernie right now. Hank Schyma is here on Hello Houston. If you want to join the conversation, give us a call, 713-440-8870. Hello there, sir.
Ernie, this is like the third time I've seen you in a week. What is going on?
And yet I hadn't seen you for like 10 years between that.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Great to see you again. It's great to be here, guys. Thank you so much.
Hi. So this is the first time we meet, and I just right off the bat have to ask you, are you really a storm chaser?
No, he just makes this stuff up.
Okay.
It is so funny. I've known him as a musician for years and years and years. And then it's like, yeah, he likes storm stuff. I didn't realize how insanely into this you are, as Celeste is saying.
Yeah. Dr. Neil Frank got me, Mario Gomez and those guys at Channel 11 got me started forecasting with them, and or they taught me, and I've been doing it ever since.
You don't just talk about these storms. As we talk about, you're a storm chaser. You go into the thick of it all.
Yeah.
And not only that, you capture it in photos and you document these things, and they're amazing to see. They move beyond just being weather events. You can see it in the book. They become pieces of art. It's amazing to me. Somebody said to me, you've got to ask him how he catches those moments. My question is, for every photo we see published, is there like 200 of them you didn't publish and that's how you get the moment? Or is there something in being a musician that helps you with the rhythm of the world around you, which gives you a moment to say, this is the moment?
The music part messes the whole thing up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But no, it's 300 photos for everyone you see.
So what have you seen? Tell us about what has made you stop and go.
So they're just, I don't know why, but as a kid, they're incredible. I had to see them. It was one of those things where we want to see, some people want to see the Eiffel Tower, some of the Grand Canyon. We want to see everything, right? But the tornadoes, just for some reason, I was infatuated with them, and in books was studying them. I had to see them, figured out how to do it. Now I go out and look at them.
Yes, but seeing a tornado is dangerous.
Almost as dangerous as driving here today down I-45.
No.
So,
this is really dangerous.
Yes,
so talk to us about why it is dangerous and maybe one of your closest calls that you've ever had.
You know, to be honest, what makes it dangerous is ego, hubris, getting in over your head. You know, competition. I've got all my buddies, you know, it's trying to beat them and get the best shot, and sometimes that will push you in beyond where you should have been, and that's where the danger happens. But you can actually learn enough about the storms to play it safe and kick back and watch the storm.
So playing it safe, how far out do you need to be from seeing an actual final tornado?
I would say at least 10 yards away from the tornado. I'm joking. A mile,
like, oh my gosh.
a mile. I feel pretty comfortable a mile
About
away.
a mile away.
Yeah.
So we've all seen movies like Twisters. How real is that in what you folks do?
There's nothing real about that movie, except for Helen Hunt. She's an amazing actor, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But don't you have like the hooks that go into the ground from the truck? to
Yeah,
keep you
yeah.
there? So
Some of these
that's
cars
real.
do that. But I mean, if you strap yourself to a pole and an EF5 goes over you, it's going to tear your clothes and your hair off of you before your skin. I mean, it's like the wind is so extreme in these, you're going to get sandblasted. So to be flying around and is physically ridiculous.
You've taken it the step beyond just capturing the look of it all to help us understand the science behind it. How much more do we understand today than maybe 10 years ago about these storms? Or hasn't it advanced that quickly?
A lot. We understand a lot more than we have. In the 5 decades, the field has substantially grown. This body of work is getting bigger and bigger so that we understand these storms. However, there's still some key things that we really don't understand. For example, why does this supercell, which is the breed of thunderstorms that produces the majority of the world's violent tornadoes, why do some of them produce tornadoes and why do some of them not? If we knew that question, our warnings could be improved greatly.
What drives people to live in those paths? And what I mean is we always hear of Tornado Alley, and we see 1 million mobile homes in that area or small homes built there that are never going to withstand it, yet people keep going back.
It's our lives, it's where we live. Every city you find, California has the fires, we have the hurricanes, but only on average 60 people die for tornadoes a year. And if you stack that against guns or drugs or,
traffic accidents.
Right. Yeah. That's really a very insignificant thing. But we only hear about the crazy stories where communities were devastated.
And speaking of those communities, where do you go to chase the storms? Clearly not just Texas, right?
I chase all over the world. I'll go to Australia, I go to Thailand, Argentina, and so South Texas to North Dakota. So I'm all over the place.
Where is the biggest, nastiest storm so far that you've seen in your lifetime?
So there's a lot of different variables to that question, but it's fun to say that I did document the widest tornado ever documented. It was 2.6 miles wide.
Wow.
That happened in 213 near El Reno, Oklahoma. And I was there front and center watching this thing. It was so grossly big that it didn't even look like a tornado.
Do you think over your time talking about this 2.6 mile wide, the really big storm, are these storms getting bigger and more powerful?
That's a very complicated question, and there's a yes and no to that with a lot of boring caveats.
Okay.
So one thing that we can say is that the big synoptic systems like the hurricanes are getting stronger more frequently, and they also have this thing where we have this rapid intensification occurring. So that's something that we have a lot of data that suggests this has really happened. But with thunderstorms, it's a very small thing compared to a hurricane, and there's a lot of caveats. But generally, yes, we are getting more storms, more intense systems, and the weather is getting worse.
And do you think the technology, you're just physically going and being there front and center. How has technology and AI evolved just being a storm chaser?
It's really incredible. It's amazing. I can look at the numerical models and 8 days out say, honey, I should probably be in South Dakota, 8 days from now. And then 4 days out, you're like, yeah, I definitely want to be in the Dakotas. And then 2 days out, you're driving and you're like, I think somewhere around, maybe Bismarck to Rapid City. And then the day of, I just drive to where the tornado is, take a picture of it, and then drive home.
Versus how did it used to be?
Before the models got really good and before the access to Wi-Fi data, because I've got radar in my car now. We used to pull over at gas stations and they'd have a TV and we would wait for the weather channel, or I'd call Dr. Neil Frank or I'd call, hey, where should I go? And they would tell me where to go. And so now the data that we have on our phone, all the surface observations, all the models constantly updating, it's actually, for me, gotten kind of easy.
Yeah. Somebody writes in our YouTubers here, is Tornado Alley moving?
There, in the last decade and two, you're seeing a lot more tornado activity in this deep south to the east. But in climate, we need more decades to actually say that. But yeah, you can say it. It seems like it is moving to the east.
We do have a little conversation going on over here. They're saying storm chasing precautions. What do you take? Somebody said a heavy car, and somebody else said a car, and they said, no, it's Texas, a truck. So is it heavier than usual what you use to?
No, I take the most cheap little Toyotas, and I go and I get the same. I get better shots than the guys with the big tanks that drill into the ground.
Oh wow!
So because 99% of your chasing is commuting, right? And then I don't plan on driving into the tornado, though I have on accident at times. And so if you're not attempting to do that, you don't need the big tanks.
There's something really mysterious and magical about these storms, and you're drawn to this. Is this something you're going to continue doing?
So if I put you in front of one, you would be drawn. You would just say, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. That's all that you can think of to say is, oh my gosh, you can't believe what you're seeing, this gigantic cloud pirouetting, and like a waterfall going in reverse 100 miles per hour.
They're going to kill me for jumping with a question. Is it the power of it or is it the visual?
To me, it's the beauty, it's the power, it's everything. They are incredibly beautiful, and most of the tornadoes I see are not killing anybody. Like very few of them that you see actually, we get an average of 1,200 tornadoes a year. Maybe a dozen will be deadly, maybe 20.
Maybe we'll have to join you on the next one.
Caveat, folks that are listening, don't just run into tornadoes because he does it. You shouldn't do that.
Hank Schyma is a Houston-based musician, author, filmmaker, and professional storm chaser. Hank, thank you so much for joining us on Hello Houston.
Thank you guys so much. Good to see you again.
And that brings us to the end of our show. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. We want to thank you for watching and listening to Hello Houston today. And we will be back tomorrow with more conversations. We're going to also discuss the future of the Astrodome, a topic we know Houstonians have thoughts on, with the executive director of the Astrodome Conservancy. This is News 88.7. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Holocaust Museum Houston, a cultural institution offering immersive exhibits featuring authentic film footage, artifacts, and more